Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I will be talking about Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar, and this is a book that I had a very interesting experience with. There were parts of this book that I thought were fantastic and stuff I really enjoyed, and then there was a lot of stuff in this book that I just did not click with, and that just did not work with me, and that actually led me to giving this book a 2-star ranking, which for me means I did not like it. Like I said, there are definitely parts of it that I do like, but I found myself for large portions of this book just not caring, not being interested, and just not being invested in the story in any meaningful way. That being said, part of me wants to continue on with this series. I feel like there is so much promise in this first story and that there's so much that can be delivered on in sequels. I think there's 2 more books after this. I don't know if it's just a trilogy, if there's more or what. I know this is a pretty popular book, so if you are a big fan of this series, definitely give me your sales pitch for continuing on with the series in the comments, because I definitely would be interested, especially after I go over some things that I did and didn't like. Let me know what you think. If it's a series I should just, stop here and say it's not for me, or if I should continue on, or if you are on the other side, you also are not the biggest fan of this book and did continue on, just let me know your thoughts. I would really like to know, because like I said, some parts of this book just seem like something really special could come from it, and then there are just other aspects of it that just did not click with me, and I just didn't think that they were executed well for my taste. So let's go ahead and quickly say what this story was about. And to me, the biggest thing I got out of it is, at its core, this is really a revenge story, and revenge in a couple different ways. So you do have somebody who their goal is to kill somebody else. At the beginning of the story, there is basically a siege on a city. There had been peace between these 2 nations for a long time. One nation is holding a city that is very important religious-wise, and that empire comes back and is finally trying to take back what they have lost. So that aspect of the story was interesting. The revenge part of it is kind of whatever for me. It made sense. I understood why revenge was important there, but there's just, some aspects of what the story actually itself was that didn't work for me all that well. I did like the big epic, empire coming and taking back what they felt like they had lost, but the revenge aspect of it didn't work for me as well. But that is really what the core of the story is about. We really follow 2 characters. One wants the revenge, and one is coming from that empire, coming back to reclaim their land. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these positives that I have for it. And I kind of already mentioned one, but this world feels like it's going to be very big and epic. So we get the 2 empires that we are really kind of following. There's the one that's being attacked and the one attacking, but there are also mentions to other parts of the world that also seem to be more technologically advanced than the ones we are seeing. So I do find that interesting, and I'm sure that at some point those other regions are going to become important. Now, unfortunately, who knows if I'll get around to reading those, but I do like that. I do like that this is a big story. And another thing that I think this does really well is that it is not a traditional mythology that I'm used to. I think it did a really good job of introducing me to some concepts of mythology that I'm not used to. It's definitely more of like an Indian, Eastern Asian kind of influenced story. I don't know exactly where it's from. I should have definitely looked it up, but it gave me those kinds of vibes. It definitely isn't your typical medieval fantasy with, knight in shining armor, those kinds of things. This is definitely a different kind of culture being brought into fantasy, and I love that. I thought it was very interesting. I'm always, open to seeing other aspects of world building and, how other cultures see the world and how they interact with all kinds of different things. I thought it was really well done, and it did make me curious. There are definitely things that were mentioned in this book that I have no idea about that I should probably look up because I want to know more about them. And I think anytime an author is able to do that through their story is really good, especially if it's from a culture I'm not used to. There are plenty of more Western style fantasies that I have read, and those are all tropes we know and love, but seeing these other cultures be able to come in and cement some things from their culture into a story is just awesome, and I really enjoyed that in this story. I will also say that this story, I think, had a very interesting magic system. We don't get too much of it, but there are definitely some interesting things. Basically, the sorcerers in this world have a mask that they kind of use as a conduit for magic, if I was understanding it correctly, and it gives them all kinds of different, I don't want to say abilities because that implies different magic things, but they live longer, they look younger, and then obviously they can control different things depending on the kind of mask that they have. I do wish we got some more of it. It does seem like that is another thing that we will be getting in, books down the line. Unfortunately, I wish there was a little bit more of it, but the magic that we did get in here was cool. And I always appreciate when somebody who is a sorceress is really shown to be powerful, and not just like in a fear-wise, but like the respect that these kinds of people are shown and how big of a deal it is to be somebody who wields magic and how powerful they are. All those kinds of things I really think are set very well, and the stage is set for them to be a big part of the story. There are definitely things that I wish I knew that we got a little bit more of. We kind of just get glimpses here and there of it, but I did enjoy what we got from it. And the last thing I want to mention is I did appreciate that this story, because of the setting it is in, and, you know, we are in a siege, we're an empire coming back to try and take over things that it feels like have been taken away from them. And so I feel like with a story like that, there needs to be some kind of brutal things happening, especially in a siege, right? And that book definitely delivered on this. There are definitely some like hardcore, you know, deaths and things that happen in this that I really appreciated, because once again, it fits into the setting. If you're going to give me this kind of setting, it actually makes sense for me. I don't like violence just for the sake of violence, but I think it was done really well, and it really just showed, you know, those things that happen in war that are brutal. And I think it did a really good job doing that, and definitely helped show some despicable things about certain characters. I thought that was pretty well done. And now we have to move on to the negatives. Definitely feel free to correct me if I'm getting something wrong, if I'm misinterpreting something, or if you think anything different from me. Definitely let me know down in the comments. But for me, I think one of the biggest problems this book has is the tone of it. Feels like characters go from one level to another level, you know, one emotion to another emotion like that. I mean, it just seems like there's no rhyme or reason sometimes for why a character is all of a sudden enraged by something. They were just having a normal conversation and then they seem to explode. And there were a couple of times throughout this where I was just like, the tone that is happening just doesn't seem to fit in with the setting we're in. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, if maybe the emotions I'm supposed to be feeling I just wasn't connecting with, that, I don't know, it just didn't come across to me correctly. And that happened numerous times where I was just like, why is this person acting the way they're acting? I just don't understand. There were plenty of times where I was like, I understand why they should be upset, why they should be angry, but I guess it just felt like their response just didn't meet the setting they were in, the people they were talking to. There just seemed multiple times where like the bullheadedness of certain characters just drove me absolutely crazy. And that's something that happened multiple times with multiple characters. It wasn't just one character. It was a couple of different that I was just like, what are they doing? Why are they acting like this? It just, especially in the setting they were in, it just a lot of times just didn't really feel like it made sense to me. And it's something that kind of threw me in and out of the story multiple times. And maybe part of that was, and this is another negative for me, is I did not really resonate with any of the characters. I think maybe some of the things that happened to them so quickly and early on in the story that I had no connection with them to feel the emotion I'm assuming I should be feeling by the action that happened. And unfortunately, that just never changed. Throughout the story, there are definitely supposed to be moments that are supposed to be sad and like heartbreaking and all these things. And at no point was I truly invested in any of the characters. Maybe at the very, very end but I wasn't interested in like their emotions. I was more interested in like the journey they're going to be going on and the changes that are happening to them. As far as like emotions go, I don't care. I didn't care that this person died or that person died or that person cared about died or all those kinds of things. At no point was I ever like truly invested in any of the characters. And I'm not normally like a super character focused reader. I don't need to always have that, but a little bit would have been nice here. And I think the biggest problem is there are supposed to be moments where I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to care and I just don't. And I think that is a huge problem where if I'm not connecting with them, I don't care about those moments. And so obviously that's very personal. That's definitely a me thing. I'm sure there are plenty of people who read this and did connect with those characters and felt the emotions that are appropriate for those situations. Just not for me. I just never got to that level. I just didn't care most of the time. And I think I'll say it more and more, but that is probably my biggest problem with this story throughout, is I just didn't care a lot of the time. So I don't know if the characters and not caring about them was my biggest problem, or if my biggest problem was almost every single thing that happened in the story felt like it happened because we needed something to happen. I don't really feel like there was ever a good flow from one event to another. A lot of times the deus ex machinas of like, this just needs to happen, so it's going to happen. It wasn't like the seeds weren't really sown super well or anything like that. It's just like, it's happening. Congratulations, this is happening to you. This bad thing is happening. And it's not just good things. It's good things, bad things. It just over and over again. It was like, where's this story going? Oh, this thing happened, so we're gonna go with that. And thank goodness that this random event is exactly what we needed. It just over and over again. And I think maybe that is part of why I also didn't care about the characters, is because it just felt like they weren't overcoming anything. It just felt like things were just happening for them. And, you know, that's super hard. And I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do, to like weave a story where it flows well. But to me, this story just was like event happening. It just felt like, you know, point one to point two to three. It just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. And I wish it did, because like I said, this world is big, it's epic, there are definitely things that I want. I guess one of my biggest complaints is, you know, throughout this story, we are following two characters. The chapters go back and forth between these characters until the biggest event of the book is happening, and all of a sudden we get two different characters to tell us about what's happening. That definitely threw me for a loop as well. That's just a little Easter egg that I think it just exemplifies maybe the author wrote themselves into a spot where they needed something to happen in the story, but the characters weren't where they needed to be anymore, and so they just were like, well, here we go, here's these random other character chapters that completely break the mold of the entire book. I don't know, it just very strange flow for a lot of things. And like I said, this is a strange book for me. I really wanted to like it, and unfortunately it just missed the mark on more things than it hit. And yet I am still somewhat interested in continuing on with the series. Like I said at the beginning, if you've made it this far, let me know why I should or shouldn't continue on. Part of me really wants to, and then part of me is like, do you not remember how much you didn't like this book and how long it took you to read it because you weren't interested in reading it at all? So, but let me know anything down in the comments. That's all for me. And as always, have a good one.